My name is Jill. Sitting in my cozy apartment, watching the city lights twinkle outside the window, I can't help but think about how far I've come. It all started with a text message that shattered my world on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. The air conditioning in my office buzzed softly, and my phone vibrated with a loud ping. I glanced at the screen, and my heart stopped. It was from my dad, saying, "We're severing all ties. Don't ever come back." I stared at those words, feeling a mix of shock and relief. For years, I'd been the rock of the family, always there to pick up the pieces and fix their problems. But this time, I knew it was time to break free. Let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up in a small town where my family was well known. My dad, Henry, was a proud but reckless man who owned a struggling antique store. He always had a grand vision for its success, but somehow, it never quite took off. My mom, Vera, was the emotional manipulator of the family. With her tear-filled eyes and trembling voice, she could make anyone feel guilty in a heartbeat. And my older brother, Jason, was the golden child, always getting away with his bad decisions. I was the responsible one, the one who got good grades and landed a stable job in the city. When I turned 26, my dad came to me with a seemingly innocent request. "Jill, it's just a little paperwork. I need you to co-sign a loan for the store. It'll help us expand, and you won't have to worry about a thing," he said, flashing his charming smile. Foolishly, I believed him. I signed the papers, thinking I was helping my family achieve their dreams. But that was just the beginning. Soon after, there were more loans for new inventory, for store renovations, and for God knows what else. The word temporary became a sick joke in our family. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. We had holiday dinners together, and we put on a happy face for the neighbors. But inside, I was drowning in debt. The family group chat was like a never-ending stream of bills and pleas for help, all disguised as love and gratitude. "You're our savior, Jill," they'd say, but when I hesitated it was, "After all we've done for you." One day, at work, I got a notification from my credit monitoring app. A new business loan of $100,000 had been taken out in my name. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. I hadn't applied for any loans, and I knew exactly who was behind it. That night, I drove straight to my parents' house. The porch light was on, but I knew it was for Jason, not for me. Mom opened the door with her fake smile. "You should have called, dear." Inside, Dad was sitting in his armchair, reading the paper, and Jason was sprawled on the couch, playing video games. I held up my phone. $100,000 taken out in my name. Care to explain? Mom looked at me with feigned confusion. "Oh, honey, your dad just needed a boost for the store. It's for the best." I interrupted her. "The store that's been on the brink of failure for years? You used my credit again." Dad's face turned red. "Watch your tone, young lady. This family needs you. You're good with money. You can handle it." I shot back. "You mean I can handle your mess?" Jason finally looked up from his game and smirked. "You're being so dramatic. We're family, aren't we? Blood is thicker than water." I stared at him, my eyes cold. "No, Jason, you shared that with me." The room fell silent, except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Mom put her hand on her heart. "You're twisting things, Jill. We've sacrificed so much for you." I laughed, a bitter laugh.
"No, Mom.
"You've spent all my savings, and I've just been paying the bills." Dad stood up, his voice booming. "Don't come here and blame us for your selfishness. Just because you have a nice job and a boyfriend doesn't mean you're better than us." Something inside me snapped. All those years of guilt and responsibility vanished in an instant. "You know what? I'm done," I said quietly. Jason scoffed. "Done with what?" "Carrying you all," I replied. "All of you." Mom started to cry. "How can you say that to your family?" "Because it's the truth," I said, and I turned towards the door. As I walked out, I heard Dad mutter, "Ungrateful." That word stung, but it also gave me the strength to keep going. The next day, that text message arrived. 5 minutes later, Jason reacted with a thumbs up emoji. It was so absurd that I almost laughed. I typed slowly, I'll remove my name from all loans tomorrow. And then I locked my phone. That night, the family chat was in chaos. There were angry messages, guilt, trips, and voice messages filled with sobs. But I ignored them all. I sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and started the process of removing myself from the loans. I emailed the bank, the insurance company, and the credit bureau. Every click of the mouse was a step towards freedom. The next week was a whirlwind. My family started showing up at my apartment, at my work. Dad would stand outside my office, glaring at me. Mom would cry and beg me to reconsider. Jason would try to reason with me, but his words were just empty threats. One day, I received an email from a law firm hired by my dad. They were threatening me with legal action for breaching my co-signing responsibilities. I showed the email to my attorney, who assured me that I had done everything legally and that they had no case. "We'll just keep them at bay," he said. But the harassment didn't stop. Family members I hadn't spoken to in years started sending me messages on social media, saying I was a terrible person for hurting my family. I blocked them all. Then, a few weeks later, I got a call from the loan officer at the bank. "Everything has been finalized, Jill. You're officially off the accounts." I let out a long breath. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. I thanked the loan officer and hung up the phone. That night, I went out for dinner with my boyfriend, Alex. We toasted with champagne. "To new beginnings," he said. I smiled. "To peace," I replied. Months passed, and I started to notice the changes in my life. I could sleep through the night without worrying about the next debt collector's call. My paycheck lasted the whole month, and I could save some money for my own future. One day, I heard through a family friend that my parents' antique store was closing down. My first thought was one of sadness, but then I realized that it wasn't my responsibility anymore. They had made their choices, and now they had to live with the consequences. A year later, as I was walking through a park with Alex, the sun shining through the trees, I felt a sense of peace that I'd never known before. Alex looked at me and asked, "Do you ever miss them?" I thought for a moment. I miss who I tried to be for them, but I don't miss the chaos and the pain. I'm free now, and it's worth every sacrifice. We walked on, hand in hand, as the world around us blossomed with the beginning of spring. I knew that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the greatest rewards. And in this case, walking away from my family was the best decision I ever made. If you've ever had to break free from toxic relationships to find yourself, know that you're not alone. Share your story, and let's support each other on the journey to peace and happiness.